Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Welcome in on a Wednesday. That's right. Following golf from the Middle East. Good to be here. Mid-morning, very civilized, but we've already done some radio on PGA Tour Radio, Sirius XM. Of course, this is 5 Clubs live on Golf Channel. I'm Gary Williams, and this program, doesn't matter what time of the day, will always be brought to you by Century Insurance. Their investment in golf is legit with the USGA, with the First Tee, with the PGA Tour. Proudly, we have them as our presenting sponsor. Business insurance is what they do, and evaluate yours with them. So on this Wednesday, getaway day for us, we've got Justin Rose going to be joining me. Of course, winning in 2023 at Pebble Beach really was kind of the beginning of the renaissance for him, because it was in an ebb state that he hadn't experienced in his professional career. You go back to when he was a teenager and it started out in a rocky way. This was different. He was an established star. It was the one Ryder Cup team in 2021 that he was not on because he went winless for a period. So he won here and obviously won last year. He's already won this year. So one of the great statesmen of the game. Justin Rose is going to be joining me here in about 15 minutes. Keith Stewart from Read the Line is going to be joining me as well. He's been hanging around here a lot. I don't know why. There might be a reason that we can share eventually, but I'm looking forward always to having a conversation with him, because while he is focusing on giving you all this information as it relates to you possibly wagering on golf, he's giving you really interesting information, whether you use it for that matter or not. I always learn a great deal. He'll be in here. We'll also show our picks for this week. Good productive week for the team here. I thought he was going to get a winner there for a little while. He had Maverick McNeely last week. So Keith Stewart as well. We got our picks. We got dogs. We'll always have dogs, whether it's 8 o'clock Eastern, 9:30 Eastern, Sunday. Well, we didn't have dogs on the Sunday. We were leading the Sony Open. We should have. Bad job on my part with the format of the show. So we're going to have Justin, and he was in a playoff last year at the Masters, and he lost to Rory. And Rory is going to start his season this week in defense of winning at Pebble Beach for the first time, which began what was just the glorious, most personally rewarding year of his life professionally. When you consider he wins at that iconic venue, he validates the original win at the Players, and he wins that again, which is a very, amazing distinction to be a multi-time winner of that championship. And then, of course, he completed the career Grand Slam, and then he wasn't done. He wins the Irish Open. He wins the Barton Trophy on the DP World Tour. And, of course, he's the linchpin of a European Ryder Cup team. So what? So what could he possibly do in 2026? Now, nothing's going to rival that. But there are things that he could accomplish this year that not only, I think, in your mind, as we have these conversations about the overall hierarchy of the pantheon of that special room in golf history, that can be affected in terms of his placement there. And what would be compelling? What would be the most significant achievement for him in 2026? I think there's one in particular. I think there are a couple other benchmarks that could be very satisfying for him. And it's not like he needs motivation. Look, the motivation to win any major, and of course the Masters, hung around there for over a decade. There's no doubt. But I'm going to speak to something here in a minute as it relates to, I think some misconceptions about him year to year performance-wise. But he spoke yesterday, and that's why Rory McIlroy, in addition to being so dynamic when he plays golf, he's also righteous and earnest when he shares his opinion. And I'm not telling you should share his opinion. The value of his willingness to be righteous is where the value lies, because people differ with it. Some in his peer group, lots of fans, maybe people in the media. And yesterday, he did what he always does. He delivers. He delivers, they put the carcass on the table, and you pull the meat off the bone. Curious minds are inclined to give thoughtful answers. And here's what he had to say when you knew the obligatory question about the player's status was going to be asked. Here's what he said, but it's the players, like it doesn't need to be anything else. Like I would say it's got more of an identity than the PGA Championship does at the minute. So like from an identity standpoint, I think the players has got it nailed. It is an amazing tournament in its own right. I don't think it being classified as a major or not a major makes it any more or any less. I'm still very proud to have won that tournament twice, as I'm sure all the other champions are. It stands on its own merit, the label, I guess. Now, I overwhelmingly agree with everything he shared there, including his thought about the PGA Championship, a championship he's won twice. And I really don't take that as a swipe, because I do think that there's challenges for them right now. I think there are historical challenges that they've tried to fight. And I also think one of the things that he has expounded upon yesterday was their placement on the calendar. Time does not present itself today to discuss it, but we're going to have it at length as early as next week when it comes to that, because it'll not just be my opinion, it'll be others as well. But as he embarks now on another season as a professional golfer, I think there are a couple things that are worthy to point out, because when you start doing something as a professional athlete, and even though you may think from a physical standpoint it's not as taxing as some of the others, I think that's fair to some degree, but I think that some of the things that these guys do, especially now in this generation, are overlooked in terms of the toll that the body takes in terms of what is required to do what they do. And it's not just the number of shots struck when they play competitive rounds. But he turned professional as a teenager in 2007, and he entered the world top 10, and he was in the top 10 at the end of 2009, not yet 21 years of age. He would turn 21 the following spring in May of 2010. Since that time, this is somebody who is finished in the top 10 in the world every single year, with the exception of 1 year where he was in a complete spiral and he finished 11th. When you live in the top 10 from 2009 to 2026, and it's an extraordinary level of just elite production and performance. And his overall average at the end of every calendar year in the world rankings was not 8.5, 4.5. And in that time, piling up a Grand Slam, 3 FedEx Cup titles, all the additional titles on the DP World Tour, which has produced 7 Harry Vardon trophies, being the aforementioned linchpin, wasn't in 2010, became it, I believe, by the end of 2012, and most certainly by 2014, of a European Ryder Cup team, which is inflicting pain on the United States, home and away. He's been on 2 road victories for Europe. He is doing things that I think fly in the face of something that is not an overarching label, but I think it's applied to him, and I think it is ill-applied, because he is not somebody who drifts. He's not somebody who ebbs. You can't ebb in a real way and continue to exist in the top 10 in the world. You can't. So while, no, his overall haul, nobody plows the field week to week like Scheffler, but this label started long before Scheffler started his dominance. And the fact is that Rory McIlroy's performance, he does not have a rash of cuts. He has had one small rash. And if you have one small rash in a decade, consider yourself lucky, because they ain't fun. He had one small rash and was isolated, which you hope a rash is, to one area, which I'll get to in a moment. He is consistently somebody who always is there on the weekends, with very rare exception, and has lived in his career almost half the time in the top 10, with 273 career starts on the PGA Tour, which gets me to what now? What would he do this year that you would maybe recalibrate your overall lists, which we all have, as they are fluid, but they're not that fluid when you get to the top of the overall food chain. Things bog down. You're in the fast lane when you start like Scheffler is. 4 years ago, where was Scotty Scheffler in your mind? He wasn't at all. Where is he now? Is he already a top 25 player all time? Is it possible that by the end of this year, even though he can't likely equal him with 20 and Rory's got 29 PGA Tour wins and Rory's got all the European Tour wins, he's got this body, breadth, depth of work that's voluminous and it's impressive. The point is, Rory's in a place now where the chess pieces move very, very infrequently. When you get into that 15, 12, 10 range, look, it ain't easy to move and go, Byron, slide out of the way, okay? Nelson, move over. Watson, I need you to move to your right. I'm now in front of you. Those are when you get to the places where it is really interesting to have a conversation. So what can he do? To me, it's one thing. It's the U.S. Open. He's won the U.S. Open. When you go back to 2011, he'd come off the meltdown at the Masters. He's got an afro. He's a bouncy kid. He's got a real appeal. And he goes there off of that, which he was young. It wasn't something where he went, well, he'll never recover. But he was the 50-year-old leader. And it was he's up by the cabins, one of the all-time dubious photos ever. And he goes to Congressional and he romps by 8. But it was a pincushion. And then you're going, well, impressive, sure. And then he won the PGA the following year by 8. Very different, not super fiery. But you're going, wow, this kid, when he's in full flight, he can just dump truck everybody. And then the U.S. Open record got kind of, okay, not that great. And then he had his rash. His rash, while he's not winning any other majors. Missing cuts at the U.S. Open. Oakmont, Erin Hills, and then finally at Shinnecock in 2018. And you're going, well, yeah, he got one, but. And since then, he pulled up his bootstraps at all these various U.S. Open sites, and he has dug in, and he's figuring out that there are certain things that are being asked of him. And what has he done since then? 9th, 8th, 7th, 5th, 2nd. 2 deep cuts in LA in 23, and the deepest of them all. I mean, seriously, could have been what we thought was maybe a completely fatal blow at Pinehurst. So fatal that he won the Masters and completed their career Grand Slam less than a year later. That's getting off the deck because he was knocked unconscious. So he has gotten to a place now, and I asked him at Oakmont, why has your record at the U.S. Open since Shinnecock been what it is? He said, my ego. I want to prove to people that that wasn't an aberration, that I can be a U.S. Open specialist, that I can play firm, fast, and fiery, and I can do this. Give me Shinnecock, firm, fast, and fiery. Scotty going for the career slam himself, and Rory crossing the line. That is the achievement that would be and will be the most compelling if it's achieved. As he begins his season, wow, teenager, now going to be 37 in May. Got a little salt, got a lot of pepper still, but he is the biggest superstar, not the best player, biggest superstar in the game. We take a break, a guy who's been a star and a true professional and a guy who is doing something rarely done anymore, winning events on the PGA Tour in his 40s. Justin Rose with me next. Great to have you with us. Wednesday edition on Golf Channel Live. We're back right after this. Back in on a Wednesday here on 5 Clubs, live on Golf Channel. And this segment is brought to you by Peter Millar, appropriately, not just because of me, proudly wearing this great apparel, the lifestyle brand for everybody for 16 years. You can go to Peter Millar and petermillar.com. I say it appropriately because the guy who's joining me now wears it far better than I do, including if he put on this little shirt jacket and took Kate out to dinner, she'd say, honey, you look great. That, of course, is Justin Rose, 13-time winner on the PGA Tour, gold medalist 7 times on the European Ryder Cup team. He joins me from Pebble Beach, where he won in 2023. How you doing, my friend?
Gary, how you doing, buddy? Well, yeah, you are looking sharp, that is for sure.
You can get anything I've got. You probably have far more than what I have. I know you love wearing Peter Millar. All right, let me ask you something. You know, you win in 23 at Pebble, and I was talking to Lucas Glover a couple weeks ago about doubt and belief. And when you have an ebb, you're hoping the ebb ends sooner than later. And look, as great as you guys are, and your focus is remarkable, doubt is inevitable. How much doubt toward the middle, the latter part of 2022 did you feel or experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think in some ways, obviously winning in 2023 at Pebble, people were like, oh, it's 4 years since you've won. And I guess the good news is I hadn't really realized that it had been that long. But obviously, clearly, I'd realized that I wasn't playing anywhere near the level I wanted to play in. And obviously coming, let's just say, off the top of the mountain, getting to world number one in 2019 or 2018, 2019, I was definitely sliding the wrong way. And I guess took some action by the end of 2022, went up to Mark Blackburn, asked him for an opinion, wanted him to take a look at my swing. And he kind of gave me some nice pointers and helped sort of steer the ship a little bit. And I kind of still felt within my heart of hearts that I had some good golf and some good golf left in me. And I certainly wasn't willing to go out on like a little bit of a slide all the way to the bottom. So I had a lot of motivation to try to fix things and to still love the game. That's always one of my benchmarks is like, can I go and play golf by myself on a summer evening with long shadows, carrying my own clubs and enjoy the game of golf? And that was yes. The answer to that was yes. So I still kind of intrinsically loved the game and have the motivation, but kind of just felt like I needed some new ideas to sink my teeth into. And I guess, yeah, end of 22 was definitely a bit of a turning point for sure.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Mark, and you used the word slide. One of the things that he talked about with you was that, and I'm just from his own words, when he started watching you, there was slide toward the target on the downswing. And when you identify whether it's a recurring fault or habit that you've gotten into, is that immediately confidence building that you've identified something you can now attack? Or is it something that can be frustrating, like, my God, how long have I been doing this? Because that was something that I know he spoke about.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of both, actually. So I think I'm quite a curious guy, and I feel like I can make a change. I just need to understand the change. And I think that's where Mark's fantastic, is that he can quantify things sort of somewhat scientifically, whether it be force plates or, 3D swing data. So I feel like not only did he have a concept or he could tell me what a fault was, he could back it up with evidence and numbers and metrics. But the other thing I loved about where Mark came at it with my golf swing is that he had studied my golf swing, or he was very aware of my golf swing in terms of the patterns that I had when I played my best. So that gave me a lot of confidence in him as a coach. And the other thing that I loved about Mark is that all of his players swing it so differently. Whether it was a Ches Reavie or obviously a Max Homa, very orthodox, or Daniel Berger, or guys that were strong grips, for example. Like, he didn't have one way of doing it. So I kind of I really, from that point of view, kind of really liked the way he brought things to the table. So we definitely honored a few of the past patterns, but then he kind of made me realize where I was kind of getting out of kilter for sure.
You won't remember this, but you may remember that we played a Pro-Am together in New Orleans many years ago. And on the 8th hole, you said, Gary, you move off the ball on your takeaway. I want you to think about the sensation of pressure on the inside of your right hip, kind of in that crease area. Do you know that I leaned on that thought alone for almost 4 years?
That's awesome, and I'll tell you what, I wish I'd have probably listened to my own advice, because I was starting to drift off it, and so for me, staying centered is very important. I guess being fairly tall, when I start to sort of shift back and forth, some bad things can happen. So yeah, that's a big feel for me too.
The idea of guys in their 40s, and it's interesting if you go back 20 years, 2005, there were 8 guys in their 40s who won that year on the PGA Tour. 3 won multiple times. The guy who won the Players was 48. You're now like an endangered species. The guy in his 40s that's winning golf tournaments. Do you have any theory as to why the frequency of guys in their 40s is not dried up altogether, because you're proving it? You've already won again this year. Why the opportunities seem more infrequent than it was the case 20 years ago?
Yeah, so I think the game has shifted in more of a power trajectory for sure in the last maybe decade. I think there's just more and more young talent emerging, and I think this talent seems to be emerging a little bit more ready to win. It seems like obviously the college process in the US is definitely such a strong breeding ground for these guys to come out and be pretty much tour ready. So that wasn't really a way I grew up playing golf, but you know, the old adage of paying your dues and maybe in your early 30s, you sort of were in your prime. That sort of mindset has definitely shifted now into these youngsters feeling like they're coming out and ready to dominate. And I feel like they're getting frustrated by the age of 25, 26 if they're not winning major championships. So I think that has shifted. So maybe just the fact that they are just ready to compete and win possibly is making, obviously, clearly on the back end, less opportunity for guys to kind of get it done with experience or whatever it might be. But I think there's still a lot of talent out here, and obviously, hopefully I'm proving that. And I see guys like Adam Scott as well who could break out. I mean, I say break out. He's obviously been a legend of the game for a long time, but he has the speed and the ball striking and the capabilities to continue to hang at the highest level as well. But if you do look at the rankings and you look at the world rankings, there aren't that many guys in their 40s that are in the top 50 in the world and kind of competing at the highest level. So I do not take it for granted. It takes a lot of sacrifice with all of the other elements that you have to start kind of putting into your game, whether that be focusing on recovery a bit more or kind of like leaning into some certain strengths, because inherently there might be other parts of your game that just don't feel as natural anymore.
I think you're right. The gestation period for young players is shorter now. I believe they're more refined skill and scoring than they were 15, 20 years ago. Look, it's admirable that how you're digging deep to do what you're doing. Let me ask you two more things and let you go. You've won a lot of big events. You've won World Golf Championships. You've won playoff events. Obviously, you've won a gold medal. You've won a U.S. Open. The idea of an elevated tier and maybe the premise that less, but if it feels like more, it can be more. Do you think that's sustainable?
So I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but I think what I would like to see, I love the fact that there's these elevated. I think what you want in the game of golf, what the top players have been talking about for the longest time, is that they want to play together more regularly. And I think that obviously there has been that shift on the PGA Tour to where there's now a decent number of these elevated events where the top players do come together more regularly. But I think that has created a bit of an A and B schedule. So, you come through, let's call it, come through the nationwide Corn Ferry Tour or PGA Tour U, and you make it to the PGA Tour, but you haven't really made it to the PGA Tour. You made it to like PGA Tour B in a sense. So I think that there's still that sort of that model that we're striving for to kind of make this PGA Tour product the most elevated product that kind of offers opportunity for the majority of the membership to kind of compete all together at the same time. And I think that a little bit more sort of unity amongst the sort of a bit more parity amongst all tournaments, so you can build your schedule in terms of like tournaments that you like to play, courses you like to play. You don't feel like you just have to play for a purse or for points. You can actually begin to play like a schedule that suits your game. So I think that's sort of what we're striving to still achieve. It's obviously very difficult to get to that point. Otherwise, we'd have done it a long time ago as a tour. But I think there's a lot of sort of smart minds around it and a lot of players taking a lot of ownership in the process. So hopefully we're going to find the right balance. Yeah,
look, you're a Premier League guy. I think elevation and relegation can be very, very compelling. And I think that tier, it can also, that always is going to have great storylines. All right, we're going to do this in 60 seconds. 5 to go for Justin Rose. Favorite restaurant on the road on the PGA Tour? Do you have a spot that you enjoy going to annually somewhere in this country?
Nobu, Malibu.
Oh, well, it's not only Nobu, it's in Malibu. I mean, 100%. How good is that? All right, I know Fooch loves the ponies. Have you ever taken any advice from him and actually won anything on a thoroughbred horse racing? Anything that he's given you?
No, but his contacts kind of got me into the game. There was a period of time where I bought Kate a racehorse for her birthday, and that actually turned into not a bad decision. The horse did pretty well, but listen, Fooch is I love him to death, but if you like to finish second, you follow his tips. Yeah.
All right, the best shot you've ever seen in person by anybody. What's the best shot that you were a witness to?
I forget what round, I forget what day, and I forget the exact situation. But Cam Young being right of the green in the rough at Riviera on the 10th hole, and to a sort of somewhat middle right pin. I just don't know how he hit the golf shot. I was on the 11th tee, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be fun to watch. What's he going to do here? Next thing, he hit it to like 6 inches, and I was like, one of those jaw-dropping moments. So I'm not sure how that happened.
Yeah, I don't. Based on the angle you just described, I don't even know how that's achievable. All right, who's the best singer on the European Ryder Cup bus?
I feel like I'm gonna give it to Gibbo. He's not one of our players, but he's the heart and soul of that whole team. He organizes all these very incredibly special experiences for us all, and he's the one with the playlist. So he leads the charge.
Okay, you gave him some shine. All right, last thing. I know how much you appreciate special places, and you won a U.S. Open at Marion. You didn't take an honorary membership. You're a regular member. You have an investment emotionally and intellectually in the club, and I know you love taking friends there. Is there a golf course in America you haven't played that you're very motivated to get to at some point?
Oh, yeah, great question. I think it would be the Bandon Dunes properties. I haven't been out that way, so I feel like that'd be something pretty epic.
It's Mecca, and look, all you guys, it's your job, but what you and so many of your peers have not been to Bandon. You owe it to yourself to do it with your buddies. It's just fantastic. Listen, you're very busy. Congratulations on a great start. Always good to chat with you.
Thanks, Gary. Keep up the good work, my man, and see you soon.
Okay, very good. That is Justin Rose. We continue here on this Wednesday on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel right after this. Welcome back into 5 Clubs here on this Wednesday. Yes, we are live just a little bit later, starting at 9:30, following the women's golf from the Middle East, with you for another half hour. And it's our getaway day, as you know that, and that means you're going to get picks. Here in just a couple minutes, you're also going to get dogs. We always finish with those on a Wednesday, and this show is always presented by Century Insurance. Business insurance is what they do, and if you need to or should evaluate yours, do it with them, plus the appreciation of the investment they make in the game of golf, not only here, but in a very significant way with the USGA, the First Tee, and the PGA Tour. Century Insurance, right by you. Appreciate Justin Rose's time, and appreciate the guy who's joining me now. Look, this is a construction site around here. You're going, what are you talking about? It looks exactly the same. It's because our production team is tremendous. There's a lot of stuff going on around here. I don't know if it's coincidental that it's going on and that Keith Stewart is here. Who knows? Maybe we'll someday have the answer. From Read the Line, contributes to Golf Digest, to The Athletic, to the PGA Tour, when it comes to understanding all the information for people who want to make a wager. And the fact is that when you look at all the depth on the PGA Tour, and you were in here last week, and the fact is, I know you like Maverick McNeely. You were set up for that. I know you have more than just picking a winner, but we have an opportunity here with Pebble Beach, and that's the one thing I want people to understand. This is not about, hey, this guy's gonna. This is about information that's interesting in terms of course setup, turf conditions, not to mention trendy players, guys who may or may not have a record here. That's why it's always useful for me to spend time with you, and I think the listeners and viewers are going to feel the same way the more and more that they hear of you here. So, Pebble Beach, it's a wonderful place. The dynamic, Keith, has changed a lot in terms of it's not the 3-day slog. It's now a much smaller field. It's only 2 golf courses. It's not 3. Let's start right there. What are the things that in particular stand out to you when you start to analyze and peel back onions of data as it relates to a 2-course structure in a tour event?
Well, this is our last multi-course for a little while. We've done 3 and 4 weeks.
Yes.
We probably won't do it. Well, we won't do it again till the fall. But you know what, though, Gary? I really enjoy being here with you, but there's something that really resonates with me that you said to me a while ago is that, you gave me a huge compliment. And I don't know if you knew that at the time, but you said, Keith, you changed the way that I watch the game now. Since I've gotten to know you in the last year or so, you changed the way that I watch. And that doesn't have anything to do with odds or anything else. It's just the things that you're looking for, and that's exactly what you're asking about right now, is that, we have 2 golf courses. What does it take to contend this week? Because everyone's involved in pools and fantasy and wagers, whatever they want to do. There's all sorts of friendly ways to do it, and there's all sorts of financial ways to do it. But what it comes down to is that people need information. And this stuff is all over the internet. And what we love to do is I love to put it all in one place. So if I give you 3 keys, let's call them Keith's keys, because I love to write and I love alliteration. But for this week in particular, they're going to be different than they were last week at TPC Scottsdale that we spoke about. This week, I need a wedge wizard. 45% of the approaches that these guys are going to hit over the course of both venues are going to be inside 150 yards. That's short by PGA Tour standards. Yeah. Right?
And the total yardage of the golf course is similarly. Yeah. Which is evidence, which amplifies your point about how many short clubs are going to be hitting.
I mean, 14 of the 20 par 4s are under 430. That's short for these guys.
Old school PGA Tour stuff.
Absolutely. And, the views and everything are great, but, it's the greens that really kind of dictate when you play 3 rounds over at Pebble Beach. Yes, you're going to get 1 round over at Spyglass Hill, but you get 3 rounds at Pebble Beach. The greens are really a big deal. And since we went to signature status, the guys that are winning here, Wyndham Clark put on a putting display. He gained like 7 strokes on the field in 3 rounds, Gary. Yep. 3 rounds, right? Rory did the same thing last year. We need good Pacific POA putters. I know we talked a little bit about POA last week. That was POA Trivialis. This is a different form of POA. It gets very bumpy right there along the coastline. We need guys that can putt on POA. And the last thing is that you need a little short game around this place. Pebble Beach has the smallest greens on average on the PGA Tour. Yep. And it has 116 bunkers. These guys are going to face 178 across the 2 courses. I like to think that the guys need to be good with a wedge. Those are 3 things I'd focus on.
The greens themselves, you mentioned size, you also mentioned the surface itself. This may seem trite, but with the field being so much smaller, and you consider what happens to POA late in the day, and foot traffic as well, I would think that overall, and I'm not saying it makes them great, they can't be as bad as when you have amateurs trudging around for 3 days all day long. On the foot traffic is lighter than it's been historically over the last couple of years with that status, but it is still certainly a factor. Look, many conversations we're going to have, people are going to find out, you're going to teach them information. By the way, it's not just about how I watch, it's how I prepare for this show. There were things that you shared with me that I went, look, because then when I watch, I want to see whether those types of elements are being proven by the information you're providing. The Scheffler thing will not go away. We will play the hits when it comes to him. And I watched, one of the things that I was interested in is he's tied for 89th at the end of day 1. Yeah. And what are the odds for a win, for a top 5, for a top 10? And they were attractive relative to what his odds generally are. How about him this week? He started his season off of the accident last year there and still managed to tie for 9th. What about him at Pebble?
Well, yeah, he tied for 9th, and he came off the injury. He hadn't had to start yet, and he led the field in approach last year in 2025. Now, a lot of people forget about this. That Wyndham Clark wins. He shoots the course record at Pebble Beach, and then the storm comes in. I was out there at the Monterey Peninsula. We had to shelter in place that Sunday. It was a wild, wild day. Yeah. But Saturday was even more wild when Wyndham goes nuts. But a lot of people forget. Scotty finished tied 6th in 2024. He was 4 back. And if you give him another day, I know a lot of people point to Ludwig, being 1 shot behind Wyndham that year, but Scotty's been in the top 10. He had historically not played that venue, and he's very, very good there. You have to be worried about him. And, I always feel like when we have these conversations, it's a bit more of like education and entertainment. So it's like infotainment. Mm-hmm. There was something I touched upon last week, and you kind of brought it up there in the open to this question, is that I said, don't bet Scotty. At this point, his number's kind of climbing. He's at like 3-1 plus 300, before the start of the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I said, you don't bet him until you bet him live. And then all weekend you were texting me, you go, Friday, Keith, he's like 10x the number.
I'm screenshotting the live odds because I was fascinated by it.
Yeah, at 3:20 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, Scotty, he was 4 shots off the lead, and he was plus 7,600 to win. 76-1, and he started the week at, what, plus 225?
Yes.
So, folks, that is why you wait on somebody that has that short of odds. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but that's a classic example, Gary, of how that his kind of like the arc of his storyline kind of goes. And if you want to hit those top 5s or top 10s, those numbers are going to increase, and then you jump in on that market. I know you and I jumped in on him on a Friday, and I posted this at Read the Line. You're like, take him top 5 right now. You're going to get a huge positive number, and you won't get that before the week starts. And chances are he's going to figure this out. He's been driver testing. He's been working really hard on the range. Like, he's getting into this. He's getting ready for what? Players, Masters. He's getting ready for all these things. He was going to be ready by Sunday. It turns out he was.
He was, and in the figuring it out, I think is a combination of things. He's also doggedly determined. And every day, look, you can't have 17 straight top 10s going back to the first start after the Players last year, 14 of which were top 5s. So and look, he's reeled in guys. He was way back at the Olympics. When he won that Players, he went just bonkers on that Sunday. So he's always going to be interesting. Let me ask you about Rory, because having won there, look, there are certain places that you want to win, and then when I look at that, I think there's a governor there for him because of the length of the golf course, and that his greatest weapon is not a weapon that he can utilize as liberally as he would like to. So what is it about him this week that stands out?
Well, a lot of pundits are going to push the narrative that you can't use driver at Pebble Beach. Just pause for a second. Since we went to signature status, the year before, Wyndham and Ludwig, those guys aren't popcorn off the tee, right? And then Rory does what he did. The guys are learning how to, like, elite players, modern players are learning how to play those golf courses. Now, when it comes to Rory, when you look at that run where he goes from there to Players to Masters or whatever, that start to his 2025 season, Rory was gaining on average on approach like 3 strokes a tournament.
Yeah.
When Rory does that, and he complements that with his superpower, all bets are off.
Okay.
Right? I mean, there's a guy that can consistently challenge Scotty Scheffler. And I know what it means to say that, but if you're getting Rory where all throughout the bag, he's gaining multiple, because he's going to do it. I mean, the floor with the driver is highest on the PGA Tour in the world, probably, right? So you combine that with what he was doing with the iron game, and then you have basically Scotty who hits it further. And, when their putter goes, they go.
Mm-hmm. All right. Give me, before we show our picks, including yours, give me 2 guys who have gotten off to very good starts, whether it's 1 or 2 guys that you fashioned to some degree this week. Are there 1 or 2?
Well, I have 2 big question marks, and I'm not sure if this will 100% answer your question, but Siwoo Kim is hitting the ball better than anybody, and he loves to play golf. So he's played all 4 starts, and tee to green, he's been absolutely fantastic. Yes. And I don't know if he'll come up on the picks board or whatever, but there's one specific question I have for him, because he's another favorite on the odds board this week, right? Yep. Sundays, he's losing on average like 1.6 strokes to the field with the flat stick. So
131st this season, strokes gained putting.
Siwoo's proven that he could be a signature winner. He has a Players on his resume. That would be one guy I'm very interested in this week. And then Maverick McNeely's the other one. Yeah. Maverick McNeely has played really, really solid golf. He seems like he's one of those guys. But we used to always say when guys get like near their 30s, they start to hit their stride on the PGA Tour. And then we had that whole youth movement with Jordan and JT and everything. Sure. But like Maverick, I think, is hitting that stride. I think that's. And now he's coming home. He's got a couple top 5s at this venue. He's got a runner-up.
First time he really contended was there.
Yes, for sure. And both those guys have been near the sun the last couple of weeks. Yep. You know what I mean? And they didn't put enough sunblock on. So I'm interested to see. There's not going to be any sun at Pebble Beach this week. We know that. The weather doesn't look good. Yeah. So especially on Sunday, a guy with a home course advantage, a guy that has continually put himself in position to win, Siwoo, Mav, pretty good. If you're asking me for who the archetype player is for this place, then you should probably show the picks. Okay, we will do that. First, let's show the standings, because serious movement last week by Taylor, by Jay, by Emma. Matsuyama, I know that they wanted the win, but second, those guys make a big jump. And if you look for the balance of the board, you had Maverick McNeely, and he was, I thought through 3 rounds, he had as good a chance as anybody. So you just mentioned
possibly him being a play this week. So with the standings, Taylor, Jay, and Emma making a jump. Here are all of the team's picks this week. I am playing Siwoo Kim. Tied for 11th, tied for 6th, tied for 2nd, tied for 3rd. You mentioned he's 2nd strokes gained approach on the tour. He's 2nd strokes gained tee to green. Yes, 131st in strokes gained putting this year. However, he's got a 12th and a 14th at Pebble the last 2 years. He's played well there. Gilwith Hovland, as is Taylor Zarzer. Maverick McNeely for Emma. Brendan goes McIntyre. Cam Young for Jay. Henley, give me a little thought on Henley being your play.
Russell Henley, similar to what I just said about Maverick McNeely, you know, he's got what, 10 straight top 20s since Memorial last year. I mean, he just continues to play consistent golf. And when you talk about wedge wizards, he's ranked 3rd in the field from 100 to 125 yards on approach. He's ranked 1st in the field from 125 to 150 yards. That's why I said he's the archetype player here. Yeah. He's an accuracy maven, right? Like, he is going to put the ball in play, and when things get a little wild, he can control trajectory, he can control spin. It's going to get wild there on Sunday.
Yes.
Spin soft, right? It rained yesterday. It's raining there today. It's going to be soft. It's going to be bumpy. It's going to be POA. He was 5th there last year. I feel good that when I make these picks, right? Because this isn't a complete card at Read the Line, right?
Sure.
This is almost kind of like a one and done.
For all your
venture,
stuff, you got to go to
right?
Read the Line.
You know, this is a one and done venture.
It's a snapshot.
I feel very, very confident that Russell will be around on Sunday afternoon. Can he take down Scotty? Well, geez, if he's doing what Russell does, then yeah, he has a chance.
Yeah, he's also, I fashioned him as kind of a mutter. I think he's got the right mind.
Yeah, he's good in a rain suit, for sure.
To dig in. Always great having you here. You're hanging around here a lot. You know, maybe there's an answer to all this.
I mean, I guess that's where the shack it comes from.
It's a very nice quilted piece right there. Good to have Keith Stewart from Read the Line, contributor also to the Athletic Golf Digest and the PGA Tour. When we continue, yes, on a little bit later, but the dogs will be celebrated as they always are on a Wednesday here on 5 Clubs. Back with them right after this. Always great to end the week with a smile, picture, video. They just make you smile. They are the dogs. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. Love the shirt jacket, love everything. That's the thing about it. Yes, they're going to have every single thing you could ever need when it comes to when you're going to play the game of golf, of course. But they are the answer to everything you need, whatever it is that you do or wherever it is that you go. The lifestyle brand that is second to none is Peter Millar and petermillar.com. Second to none, the dogs. Every single week, we give you a batch of dogs that have got a connection to the game of golf sent to us by viewers, by listeners. And all you got to do is send that photo or video to dogs@5clubsgolf.com. We will honor them all eventually. We'll get to all the dogs. And here we go. Release those hounds on a Wednesday. Your dogs of the week. We start with Titus, Garrett Grantham's dog. Titus is a White Shepherd Gray Wolf hybrid. That's Sleepy Hollow Golf and Country Club in Charlestown, West Virginia. Next up, we have Greg Size's dog, Louie. Louie on the cart there at South Park Golf Course in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Great looking dog there. John Seuss's dog, he is out there with Ping and the president of the Arizona Golf Association as well. That is Coco, who is the VP of Morale at Ping and has been a loyal employee at Ping since 2016. Now that is John Babcock's dog. He's a golf professional in Southern California. That first dog is Oz, who passed away last April, grew up on the golf course in Illinois, and in the last 7 years in the SoCal section, passed away, and now meet Nash. Nash is Oz's nephew. Nash goes to the golf course now with John as he helps teach his students proper alignment and grip from one generation to the next, bringing joy to everybody. The dogs of the week. We finish every Wednesday with them. And again, if you got a dog, send us the picture or the video, dogs@5clubsgolf.com. A couple minutes left here with the Signature Series starting tomorrow at Pebble. And love it. I love that there's 3 rounds at Pebble. Yes, there's changes to the format, less AMs, and that's history. It will always be part of history. But we're getting into a period where the density of these big events is kind of overwhelming. Signature Series event this week, again next week at Riviera. Then off to Florida. We start with the Cognizant Classic. And then after that, it is Signature Series event at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And then from there to the Players. and then after that it's Valspar, and you get the Texas two-step, and then it's the Masters. And then after the Masters, you get a Signature Series event then. And then you get a little respite, and then you got the Cadillac and the Truist and the PGA. My gosh, by the middle of May, the number of monster events that will have already been played, including the players in 2 majors, can be head-spinning. But actually, I think that this, in a more delayed delivery, is what you're going to get from the PGA Tour at kind of Tier 1, which is not what I think they're going to call it, starting next year. I think that the problem with having all of this lining up, it's not that we don't want to see them week in and week out, is that how many members do you have and how many are being deprived starts who are fully exempt, and all of a sudden it's the springtime and you're looking at your number and you're going, my gosh, I got no sand in the hourglass and I don't even feel like I had a real shot. That's why I think that the construct in Tier 2, whatever it's going to be, is what it's going to be. We'll have plenty of time to discuss all of that. Pebble is special. First time there, 1993 with my dad. We played in a father-son. We were in the pro division because I was a member of the PGA of America. Walked into registration. We were the only team in our flight. Winners! I said, if you can guarantee the field next year, we'll be back. They didn't. We didn't show. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you next week.